Welcome to Alternate Endings.
Half audiobook.
Half podcast.
Full apocalypse. On this episode, we bring you a short story about a possible fate of the human race. By the end, can you guess what happened?
This short story is titled Murmurations and was written by Ivan Wayne, voiced by Holly Haberman and Ivan Wayne. Hello.
Hi.
You leaving too?
Yep. Filling up, and then I'm on my merry way.
I didn't expect anyone else to be here.
Yeah, me neither.
Where are you heading?
California. You?
Chicago. Why didn't you get out of here earlier?
Well, because I didn't take it seriously.
Me neither.
Like, evacuations? Really? It wasn't nuclear war, a hurricane, anything like that.
Yeah, I know. It still seems silly in a way.
Well, what about you?
I don't know. I didn't feel like starting over. Thought I could be stubborn and make it work here, that we could make it work. My wife and I, we both agreed to stay, and we felt okay about it. Things were pretty good for a while, all things considered.
Yeah, same. I didn't want to start again either.
I thought to myself, what is the worst that could happen? Get shit on more? Have to wash the car twice a week? I guess I had no idea how many there would be. That numbers would affect their behavior, how they would group up like that. Didn't consider my office closing, my supervisor leaving, or all my coworkers ceasing to show up to work. Our city shutting down in fear of inconvenience.
Yeah.
It's like a friend can tell you something 10 times and you nod along. You consider what they're saying as they tell you, honestly taking what they're saying into account. You might be a bit distracted, but then a day or two goes by, and their advice or their recommendation drops off your radar. They tell you again, and you might find yourself beginning to wonder about what they said when they're not around. This isn't mean. You just don't believe what people are saying as much as they do.
I'm afraid I don't follow.
Right. The warnings, the evacuations. We were always hearing them from other people. I never internalized, and neither did my wife. We never flipped that switch to leave. It was false to us. Even though our friends left, our neighbors, our coworkers.
Yeah, it really wasn't that big of a deal to me, really. None of it. I remember laughing at my neighbors, one of the first couples to leave. I watched them load their U-Haul and wonder when the world decided to go mad. More people on my street began to leave, same at my job. I'm a teacher. Well, I was a teacher. And the students in my class seemed to decrease by 1 or 2 each day. Felt like God decided to take the rapture real nice and slow. People disappearing from my life one at a time, plucked from my reality. But I just chalked it up to paranoia, noise, sensationalism. Yet another news story people overreact to and suddenly decide to move. Once a quarter of the city had evacuated, I became frustrated. I thought people's paranoia was just inflating one another, like people only left because other people were gone. Nobody wanted to be the only one left in the cul-de-sac. I didn't take it seriously. That is, until my sister died. Then it shook me. Selfish, right?
I don't think so.
Well, that's when I began to pay attention. And by the time I was finally catching up on the news and the warnings, I guess things weren't going to be normal again. At least not here. Things will never be normal again. I wonder how long this will continue before people move back, if ever. I mean, it has to end sometime, right?
I'm sorry, but do you mind my asking how she passed?
Sure. Well, my sister died on an airplane during takeoff at the airport here, Love Field. Hit an extremely large and dense flock just after leaving the runway. Bad luck. The plane was only about 200 feet off the ground, which for a commercial airliner, that's such a silly elevation to go down from, you know? It's like you were to turn on the television, see a news story that someone passed away, and it's like you were to turn on the television and see a news story that someone just passed away, and you find out they just fell over while talking or walking down the hall, and poof, gone. Lights out. Game over.
Yeah.
Like, when people imagine plane crashes, or at least for myself, I imagine some fiery bullet raining down from the sky, falling from miles above the ground, shrapnel peeling off, sheer panic and shock for the minutes as you fall. I imagine people clutching their laps, saying some kind of prayer, and having way too much time to wish they had been on a separate flight that day. But that's not how my sister's plane went down. Nope, it barely skipped off the ground.
Do you know if they took out the engines, the windshield, or...
I know they were taking off. I remember getting the phone call later that evening. I just assumed she had made it safely. Most flights take off and land without incident. We just assume travel gets completed, like taking the next day for granted, assuming there won't be traffic on the way to work. I didn't even consider it. But she's gone. Just like that.
Was her flight the one that caused the airport to shut down?
Yeah, that's the one. The last flight from Love Field. The other planes took off empty and relocated to other airports after the shutdown.
Man, I am sorry.
It's all right. I drove to the airport a few days after the crash. Felt like I was in a zombie film. Not a single car in the parking lot, no planes flying, empty runways and buildings. Normal life had already shut down all around us, but it took my sister's death to wake me up to it. Made me feel ignorant, selfish.
If it's any help, I feel that same exact way about my wife. She had been my sounding board, and we rationalized together our choice to stay here and endure. She really thought this entire thing would blow over and that people would move back here in a year or two. I loved her optimism. I always had. It's something I've lacked. Losing her, I saw everything for myself for the first time, the way it really was. And I wanted to leave more than anything I'd ever wanted before. Packed up eventually, and here I am at this gas station with you, leaving all this shit behind finally.
Your wife, if you don't mind my asking.
No, it's fine. She died. Car accident. I didn't have time to pull her completely free from the car. The accident smashed our vehicle to a crumpled mess. It was just the two of us in the car. We'd stopped on the highway, which was a good idea to begin with. I mean, I had no idea these birds would be flying in such a tight clump like that. I can now very easily imagine how they took down a plane.
To be honest, I didn't think it was that serious. I saw the footage, the viral videos of my sister's flight. Reminded me how flies buzz around an animal near death. Kind of wish I hadn't seen the videos sometimes. It still sounds silly. I mean, it's just birds.
I agree.
Sorry, I didn't mean to keep going on about the planes.
No, it's fine.
So, it was a car crash?
Yeah, we were driving down the highway.
And you collided with a swarm of birds?
Well, no. One of the only grocery stores on our side of 635 still open was about 30 minutes away. Weren't too many cars on the side of the road that day, actually. It surprised me. I passively began to wonder if things were getting better, if this siege was over. Maybe my wife had been right. I hope some of our friends will be moving back soon. But during the drive, from the left side, a cloud, thick and black as midnight, enveloped the entire roadway and our car. We didn't see it coming ahead of time, or I would have braked in advance until they finished crossing the highway. I know it was a flock of birds, but it honestly looked like this huge, lurching, amorphous monster rolling across the ground, sniffing and looking for trouble.
Didn't you all stop driving?
Yeah. By the time I came to a stop, though, we were already in that cloud of birds. The truck didn't, however.
A truck?
I will never know why they didn't stop, whoever it was. There was a pickup truck. I had seen this truck behind us before the crows. I assume they were crows? Ravens? Whatever. But before they blotted out the sun and swallowed us whole, I saw this truck behind us, probably 200 feet or so. I don't think they slowed down. The driver must have assumed we kept driving through the birds, but there's no way. We would have lost our windshield if we hadn't slowed down. No idea why that guy didn't consider the same. We were hit at full speed. The truck slammed into the rear of our car on my wife's side. My wife had this tiny car, and we decided to drive it that day. Better gas mileage, the closest gas station to us that still remained open wasn't close to us either. Better not to have to venture out more often for gas, so why not the tiny hybrid? Why didn't we take our bigger car that day?
Yeah, sure. I know what you mean.
But, I was in a car accident in college. This was one of the loudest, most surreal sounds I can remember. However, being in the middle of that cloud of screeching birds thumping against our car, I barely even heard the collision. That must sound really crazy, but it's true. I was looking over at my wife and everything blurred together in those next few moments, and I tried to get her out. I knew she was dead, but I hadn't accepted it, and I don't really want to talk about the rest. The birds, being so many of them, food source scarce as it was, our car smashed. I had to leave.
Yeah, I get that.
I know I should have returned to the scene to see if the truck was still running, see if anything was left of my wife, but, I couldn't.
And then you decided to leave town?
Well, I was going to. Took forever for me to make it back home. I found people still living in the areas in between the wreck and our house. I stopped by some local stops that were still open to buy some food and drinks on the way. I had luck with the weather. You know, it's not fair. I was able to walk all the way home, and my wife had to die there that day. Her body picked over by a ravenous flock of bullshit chaos. It's filthy.
Right.
The whole trek home, all the warnings we had ignored beforehand, resounded in my head. Pleas from our parents, my sister, all our family and friends telling us to leave. They would at first hint about coming to stay with them for a while until we could get jobs and reestablish. Those subtle hints morphed into direct offers, followed eventually by their frustrated begging us to leave and come with them. My family isn't from here, so none of them were going to be affected. Walking home those couple days, everything seemed so ignorant. Why had we just not left, you know?
Oh, yes, I know very well.
You? Any family here? Husband? Significant other? Any kids?
No. I had a girlfriend for about a year. Told each other we were in love. She wanted to leave. Early, too. She was one of the first people I personally know of to evacuate. She begged me to come with her. I scoffed and said no. Felt like she was running from the boogeyman or Sasquatch or something. Another part of me wondered if it was me, and she just wanted to get away from our relationship, you know? Many evenings I wonder if she even left the city. Perhaps she just needed an out. Maybe she just broke up with me and was living a few miles away. Too much time to sit around and wonder, but who knows? At minimum, she's gone now and supposedly somewhere in Kansas City, far away from here and these goddamn pests. Well, that's what she told me anyway.
And now, all we have are these birds.
Yeah. I did love her, though. I still miss her. She was mine, and my decision to stay felt more hollow with each passing week. I wanted to call her and find her in KC. But why was I digging myself into this place? I mean, it's my home, sure, but isn't home made of people and not places? And if I'm saying that, then why didn't I just go with her?
I would say so. I didn't grow up here, though. We also should have left.
Yeah, I've lived here about 10 years. It's been my home for quite a while now.
And your sister lived here too?
Yeah. Our parents moved out to Oklahoma after we left the house.
So you're heading up to Oklahoma then, with your parents?
Oh, no. I'm heading to California. My best friend lives there, and Oklahoma really isn't my speed. It's not that I'm not close with my parents. I just don't want to live with them, or have my parents be the only people I know in a new place, which is a small rural lake town in the middle of nowhere. I'll visit them, though.
I see.
And you? Chicago, was it?
Yeah, my family's there. And randomly, a few friends from childhood also moved there. I have a sister there and 2 nephews. It'll be good. That is, if I don't have to watch any more birds. I think I'll hate birds from now on for the rest of my life.
After my sister died, I began searching for clips online of other planes going down because of swarms. These other places didn't have full-scale evacuations, but they're still dealing with an overpopulation and random influxes of birds just like the rest of the country. Just not on the same scale as here. All the videos seem to agree these were accidents of bad timing, but I'm not sure. These birds aren't smart enough to see a plane coming from that far away and move out of the way. I don't know.
I'm not sure how far they can see.
But don't they learn from seeing others get killed? Like, a lot of birds are supposed to be smarter, aren't they? That was all part of this. People kept saying not only were the numbers increasing and that they were getting larger in size, but also they seemed to have an increase in intelligence. Did you hear that?
Yeah. I don't know about these birds getting smarter, but I had heard they increased in size slowly over time, and that humans were to thank for that. We essentially helped them out. Did you see that one video of the grocery store up in Michigan or somewhere?
No.
It was crazy. My wife saw this video and showed me this clip of some security footage from a grocery store. There was no sound to this video, but the resolution was solid. The time-lapse video showed these ravens flying in the top corner of their sliding doorway during the last hour the store was open that day. The birds would clear the gap as close to the top of the opening as they could as to not draw any attention. The camera then switched to an inside angle, showing how these birds would fly in and they would immediately dart up into a nearby hidden corner. By the time the store closed, at least 100 birds had snuck in, one by one.
Whoa.
Yeah. So the birds waited in the store for like 20 minutes after everybody left and locked the store up. Slowly the birds began to fly through the store, taking off from their hiding spot one by one, and a lot of them headed into the back of the store. The camera switched and showed these birds flying directly up to this button panel that opened the back loading bay doors. These birds worked together to push enough pressure on that button, and the back doors began to open up. As the door rose, this black cloud of birds flooded into the store like some black tongue licking inside. The security alarm never set off because they opened the door from the inside with that button.
Holy shit.
Yeah. These birds seemed systematic, like they knew what they were doing and where things were. They were after food, but they also took a lot of items that they could probably build nests with. Smarter than any birds I ever knew of growing up.
See, they're getting smarter.
Well, yeah, but I think crows and ravens have always been smart. I'm just not sure how much it picked up over the last few decades. They definitely figured out how to make do around us humans. They began to live among us and became a nuisance, and eventually, for some weird-ass reason, made a mass exodus to our city.
Yeah, in my neighborhood, they made nests everywhere. One of my neighbors warned me not to leave my windows open, not even cracked. It took him once to learn his lesson.
So they came in his house?
Yeah, he came home to hundreds of birds inside his house, pecking through food and ruining his home. Nests everywhere, walls scratched up, floor shit all over.
Did he leave?
No. Just like us, he was determined, whatever the cost. Pissed. He got a shovel and started swinging it at birds, chasing them all out eventually. I heard him yelling and saw the ending of it all.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah, it was. However, when he came to my house and asked for help cleaning up, he looked as if he fell into a pit of barbed wire. It wasn't an easy fight convincing hundreds of desperate birds to vacate their new house.
And he stayed in his house after that?
He did. We cleaned up, got most of it back in order. It was really nice having him around, actually. We would share drinks sometimes in the evenings, even stay over at one another's places. He had been a collector of sorts for nice liquors, so we had a library of booze to work through. He had been older, divorced, had 2 kids, but wasn't really close to them. Honestly, I always wondered why, but never really asked. He would mention them here and there, seemed to know a lot about their recent activity, but...
Well, why do you think he stayed?
Similar to you, I think. Didn't want to leave. He wasn't going to be forced out of his residence in his town by some world record-setting migration of stupid birds. He was still there. I walked over and said goodbye to him this morning. He smiled. We shared a shot of his best bourbon. He loved his bourbons. I knew I had a day of driving ahead of me, but I couldn't say no. I knew it would be our last drink together.
Absolutely.
Took a shot of some of his best reserve. We talked a bit. I gave him a big hug. Told him to call me if he ever wanted. Offered to host him in California if he ever decided to leave. It was sad.
Do you think he'll ever leave?
I don't think so. He's not the kind of man you can imagine packing up and starting over. He's an older guy, set in his ways, loved our neighborhood, had 2 kids, but never once considered moving near them. He had lived in that house with his wife before they divorced, raised the kids there too. That was his home.
He will be all alone soon, though, if he isn't already.
Yeah, there are some other people left around, but we didn't talk to them much. And who knows, maybe they'll become better friends with time. But he'll manage, live on. I would have left sooner if it wasn't for him, honestly. Our evenings chatting were fun, made life seem normal again, as if we didn't live in some bird-infested shitstorm.
Yeah. Our neighbors we knew left way before us. Well, me.
Right.
Being alone on my street, it didn't take me too long to leave. Although, you'd never understand why I stayed so long. My wife passed 3 weeks ago today.
I'm sorry. It took you 3 weeks, though?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm not sure. Crushing depression. I cried enough to probably drown an elephant. Packed very slowly. Thought about ending my own life, honestly. I called everyone I knew and told them what happened. Drank a lot. Too much, to be honest. It's been a tough time.
I can imagine.
I hated every phone call. I wondered what my family and friends were thinking. I wondered what her mom thought of me. We had both decided to stay, but I got to be the one to live. Her mom probably wished I had been the one to get eaten by birds after our horrible, fiery car crash. And that's okay. That's a natural thought, right? But everyone had told us to leave. We said everything was fine, and then they get a phone call from me, only to find out that they were right. Shaylee had to die because of these goddamn birds.
Another reason I'm not driving to Oklahoma right now is my parents and how they reacted. They were angry at my sister for dying. Can you believe that?
I only heard sadness from Shaylee's family, but I can imagine how angry they must have been. Plenty of anger toward me, still squeezing them today, I bet. And that anger will probably continue for some time. So yes, I can imagine. And I'm sorry. It's not easy.
No, it isn't. My parents didn't seem to grieve at all. They seemed to say, without any words, of course, "We told your sister 100 times to leave. We told you both." Their anger seemed to make them indifferent that their daughter was just killed. They lost one of their children and all they could grip was some sort of IOU. It pisses me off, and I can't talk to them right now. I'm not sure when I will, but They're both up their own asses. They'll have to drop their bullshit first. Until then, it's California for me.
I see. Any particular reason for California?
Yeah. My friend said that their bird issues have decreased a lot over the last 2 years. She seems to think a lot of the birds screwing things up in California came here or elsewhere. Better weather, less birds, friendlier to women like myself. I'll take it.
Do you know why the birds decided to come here in the first place?
I don't. Every channel or TV personality seem to have their own opinion. Scientists are still debating it. Whether some man-made attraction for them, ideal position, I don't know. What do you think?
I have no idea. Their migration to this area was a sudden change. We haven't had weather change that dramatically lately. One of my friends mentioned something one time that the birds possibly knew something ahead of time. Maybe weather that hadn't occurred yet. I don't know. Something man-made could be feasible too. Maybe we messed up and made something birds couldn't resist at a very bad time in our country when we were already struggling with the bird issue. Wrong place, wrong time.
Story of our lives.
No joke about it.
It's odd, right? Like, our city gets wasted, people die, we leave. The birds take Dallas-Fort Worth over only to make things better for other parts of the country. Bittersweet when you zoom out to the national level. People in Colorado, New Mexico, Arkansas are probably singing praises right now.
I guess so.
And I don't mean to be insensitive about your wife, you know.
No. It's okay. I get what you mean.
What was the final straw after 3 weeks, getting you out of your house?
Time, I guess. It had been enough time. We should have left way before she even died. I spent enough time in misery, and now I think it's time for me to go. We're going to have a funeral for her next week. Feels empty and useless without her body. I suspect her entire family will be staring at me that day, the man responsible for her death and her total disappearance.
Yeah.
Look up there. Some visitors.
Oh, jeez. Look at how many there are.
I didn't even hear them get here.
Do you think they've gotten meaner?
More mean? Like, aggressive? Maybe, I guess. Why?
As I got closer to leaving, they seemed to get more aggressive, more desperate. I suspect whatever brought them didn't anticipate their numbers or set out a buffet line for them. Food may be getting slim, forcing them to scramble and improvise.
I don't know if this is bird-related. Maybe people are to blame. But when the shops started closing and stores started shutting down, the windows were intact, right? Not every single one, but a majority. But now when you drive through the city, it seems like every window in every single building is busted out. Everything is ravaged.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Several houses on our street were infested with birds. The people left, and somehow a window was broken, and before you know it, 100 birds made themselves at home. It was so loud anytime you walked or drove past those homes. It creeped me out.
No. I remember when we went out to buy sleeping pills because the chirping became 24/7. I hadn't remembered nights ever being that loud. It's still odd, because birds don't stay up all hours of the night. Just owls, right?
I don't know. And I also don't like the way those crows are staring at us. You think they're looking at us?
Perhaps. Hard to tell from here.
Some of the ravens my neighbor chased out of his house would come back and taunt him. I don't think they were trying to get back in the house, but you could tell they remembered him. If they saw him outside, they'd flock over, cackle, even sometimes fly at him. He swore at them and laughed it off later. But it isn't until now. I don't know why, but I don't feel so good about what they were doing. I hope he takes care of himself and is careful. For all I know, these birds know me, and I'm beginning to feel not so good about our new visitors here.
Whoa, look. even more over there.
Okay, I don't like this. Superstitious, paranoid or not, I'm going to get in my car and leave now.
Sounds good. I guess we both stopped filling up our cars a long time ago anyway.
Yes, indeed. But hey, it was a hell of a pleasure talking to you.
Agreed. I haven't got to talk much in the last 3 weeks. This was needed.
Well, I wish you all the luck in the world out there. I didn't get your name, by the way.
Jack.
I'm Cora.
Well, good luck to you too. We're both gonna need it. Drive safe today.
And don't beat yourself up. I know I'm just a stranger who chatted your ear off at a gas station as you left town, but she wanted to say too, your wife and you were making it work, and that was an accident. Some asshat in a truck wasn't thinking, and it cost you all.
Thank you.
And don't let her family get you down either. It's not like they moved down here with you all. They're just hurting. Anyway, take care out there.
And you too. Good luck in California. Soak up some of that beach time for me.
Oh, trust me. I plan to do plenty of that.
Thanks all for listening. Check out the next episode where we discuss and review this story. We hope to see you there, as long as the world doesn't end before then.
We would like to thank Kevin MacLeod for his music found on Incompetech.com.